thousands of years of human triumph, innovation, conquest, and resilience? From the world's first planned cities to becoming the world's largest democracy, India's history reads like an epic novel spanning over 5,000 years. Today, we're going on an incredibly journey through time. We'll witness the rise and fall of mighty empires, meet legendary rulers who shaped the world, explore golden ages of art and science, and understand how a land of incredible diversity became the India we know today. Whether you're a history buff or just curious about one of humanity's greatest stories, this is going to be an adventure you won't forget. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into the entire history of India, from the mysterious Harappan cities to the bustling India of Prime Minister Modi. Our story begins over 5,000 years ago in what is now Pakistan and northwest India, with one of humanity's greatest mysteries, the Harappan civilization, also known as the Indus Valley Civilization. Picture this: while most of the world was still figuring out basic agriculture, the Harappans had already built cities that would make modern urban planners jealous. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro weren't just settlements, they were marvels of engineering. Think of them as the Silicon Valley of the Bronze Age. These cities had something that even Rome wouldn't perfect for another 2,000 years: sophisticated sewage systems. Every house had indoor plumbing, public baths that rivaled modern spas, and streets laid out in perfect grids. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro was essentially the world's first public swimming pool, with waterproofing that still amazes engineers today. But here's what makes the Harappans truly fascinating. They were peaceful. In all our archaeological digs, we found no palaces, no temples, no weapons of war. It's as if they created a utopian society, focused on trade, craftsmanship, and urban planning, rather than conquest. They developed a standardized system of weights and measures, traded as far as Mesopotamia, and created seals with an undeciphered script that continues to puzzle scholars. Then, around 1300 BCE, this incredible civilization simply vanished. Climate change, floods, or perhaps invasions, we still don't know for sure. But they left behind a legacy, the idea that this land could nurture advanced civilizations. As the Harappan cities fell silent, a new chapter began. The Vedic period marks the arrival of the Indo-Aryans, pastoral peoples who brought with them something that would define Indian civilization forever: the Vedas. Imagine sitting around fires 3,000 years ago, listening to priests chant hymns that were so sacred, so important, that they were memorized word for word and passed down through generations with such precision that scholars call it the world's oldest recorded oral tradition. The Rig Veda, composed around 1500 BCE, contains over 1,000 hymns and gives us our first glimpse into early Indian thought, religion, and society. This period saw the birth of Hinduism, not as a single religion, but as a complex tapestry of beliefs, practices, and philosophies. The concept of dharma, righteous living, emerged. The caste system began to take shape, initially as a simple division of labor, but later becoming more rigid and hierarchical. The later Vedic period, 1000 to 500 BCE, witnessed the composition of the Upanishads, philosophical texts that introduced revolutionary concepts: karma, reincarnation, and moksha, or liberation. These weren't just religious ideas, they were sophisticated attempts to understand the nature of reality, consciousness, and human purpose. Think about it. While ancient Greeks were just beginning to question the nature of reality, Indian philosophers were already exploring concepts like the unity of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. The famous phrase, Tat Tvam Asi, meaning thou art that, suggested that the individual soul and the universal soul were one and the same. This wasn't just philosophy, it was psychology, metaphysics, and spirituality rolled into one. The 6th century BCE was India's intellectual revolution. In a small kingdom called Magadha, 2 princes would abandon their palaces and change the world forever. First, let's meet Prince Vardhamana, later known as Mahavira, who founded Jainism. But it's the other prince whose story captivates the world, Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha. Picture a young prince raised in luxury who had never seen suffering. One day, he ventures outside his palace and encounters old age, sickness, and death for the first time. This experience shattered his world. How could he enjoy royal pleasures knowing that all beings suffered? At 29, Siddhartha abandoned his kingdom, his wife, his newborn son, everything, to seek answers. After years of extreme asceticism nearly killed him, he chose the middle path. Sitting under a Bodhi tree, he achieved enlightenment and became the Buddha, the awakened one. His teaching was revolutionary. Suffering exists, but it can be overcome through understanding and ethical living. No gods, no priests, no complex rituals, just practical wisdom available to anyone willing to follow the Eightfold Path. Buddhism offered something radical for its time, spiritual liberation regardless of birth, caste, or social status. An untouchable could achieve nirvana just as easily as a king. This democratization of spirituality would influence not just India, but eventually much of Asia. Meanwhile, Mahavira preached ahimsa, or non-violence, so thoroughly that Jains covered their mouths to avoid accidentally swallowing insects and swept the ground before walking to avoid crushing tiny creatures. Both religions challenged the growing orthodoxy of Vedic Hinduism and offered alternative paths to spiritual fulfillment. Now we enter the Age of Empires. In 321 BCE, a young man named Chandragupta Maurya, with the help of the brilliant strategist Chanakya, also known as Kautilya, overthrew the Nanda dynasty and established the first truly pan-Indian empire. But it's Chandragupta's grandson who steals the show, Ashoka the Great. Imagine inheriting an empire that stretches from Afghanistan to Bangladesh, from Kashmir to Karnataka. Young Ashoka was ambitious, ruthless, and determined to expand even further. His opportunity came with the kingdom of Kalinga, modern-day Odisha. The Kalinga War of 261 BCE was brutal beyond imagination. Ancient sources speak of 100,000 soldiers killed and 150,000 deported. After victory, Ashoka walked through the battlefield, saw the carnage he had caused, and experienced what historians call one of history's most dramatic personal transformations. The conqueror became a convert to Buddhism. Ashoka didn't just adopt Buddhist principles, he made them state policy. He established hospitals for both humans and animals, built roads, planted trees, and created a welfare state 2,000 years before the concept became popular in Europe. Most remarkably, he erected pillars in rocks throughout his empire, with edicts promoting moral governance, religious tolerance, and non-violence. The Ashoka Pillar's lion capital became India's national emblem. His edicts, written in local scripts and languages, represent some of the earliest examples of mass communication by a ruler. Ashoka's empire connected India to the world. His missionaries spread Buddhism to Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia. Trade flourished, art prospered, and for the first time, a significant portion of the Indian subcontinent was united under one rule. After the fall of the Mauryans, India fragmented into smaller kingdoms until the rise of the Guptas in 320 CE. The Gupta period is often called India's Golden Age, and once you hear what they achieved, you'll understand why. Under rulers like Chandragupta II, India became the world's intellectual powerhouse. This was the India that gave the world the concept of zero, not just as a placeholder, but as a number. Mathematician Aryabhata calculated the value of pi, explained lunar eclipses, and proposed that the Earth rotates on its axis 1,000 years before Copernicus. The Guptas patronized arts and literature like no dynasty before them. This period produced Kalidasa, often called the Shakespeare of India, whose poetry and plays like Shakuntala influenced writers across cultures. The Ajanta caves, with their breathtaking Buddhist paintings, were carved during this time. Here's what's remarkable. While Europe was entering the Dark Ages, India was experiencing an intellectual renaissance. Universities like Nalanda attracted students from across Asia. Chinese scholar Fa Hin visited India and wrote detailed accounts of a prosperous, well-governed land where people were free to travel without fear. Medicine advanced dramatically. Sushruta, the ancient surgeon, performed cataract operations, plastic surgery, and described over 300 surgical procedures. The Gupta period saw developments in metallurgy so advanced that the Iron Pillar of Delhi, erected during this time, still stands rust-free after 1,600 years. Religious tolerance flourished. While the Guptas were Hindu, they patronized Buddhist and Jain institutions. Art from this period shows a synthesis of different traditions, creating a distinctly classical Indian aesthetic that influenced art across South and Southeast Asia. While North India experienced various invasions and political upheavals, South India was writing its own glorious chapter. The Cholas, particularly under Rajaraja I and his son Rajendra I, built one of history's most impressive maritime empires. Picture this: Tamil kings whose navy controlled trade routes from the Arabian Sea to the South China Sea. The Cholas didn't just rule land, they ruled the waves. Rajendra I's naval expeditions reached as far as Indonesia and Malaysia, establishing what historians call the First Indian Ocean Empire. The Cholas were master builders. The Brihadishwara Temple in Tanjavur, built by Rajaraja I, is an engineering marvel. Its dome, weighing 80 tons, was hauled to the top using a ramp that stretched for miles. The temple's shadow never falls on the ground at noon, a testament to the precision of Chola architects. But the Cholas were more than just warriors and builders. They were cultural ambassadors. Tamil literature flourished, bronze sculpture reached unprecedented heights, and classical dance forms like Bharatanatyam were codified in temple traditions. The Chola administration was remarkably sophisticated. They developed a system of local self-governance called Nadu, where village assemblies made local decisions. Women could own property, engage in trade, and even serve in administrative positions. The famous Uttaramerur inscriptions describe democratic procedures for selecting village representatives that would impress modern political scientists. The medieval period brought dramatic changes to the Indian subcontinent.
In 1001 CE, Mahmud of Ghazni began his raids into North India. But it was Muhammad of Ghore's victory over Prithviraj Chauhan at the Second Battle of Tarain in 1192 that truly changed the course of Indian history. The Delhi Sultanate, beginning with the slave dynasty in 1206, established Muslim rule over large parts of North India for the first time. This wasn't just a political change, it was a cultural earthquake. 5 dynasties ruled the Delhi Sultanate over 320 years: the Slave, Khalji, Tughlaq, Sayyid, and Lodi dynasties. Each brought their own flavor of governance, but all had to grapple with the same challenge. How do you rule a predominantly Hindu population as a Muslim minority? Alauddin Khalji showed one approach: efficient administration mixed with ruthless control. He implemented price controls in Delhi, maintained a huge standing army, and repelled multiple Mughal invasions. His general Malik Kafur's expeditions to South India brought enormous wealth to Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq represents both the ambition and the chaos of the period. He tried to shift his capital from Delhi to Dawlatabad in the Deccan. Imagine trying to relocate an entire government 700 years ago. The experiment failed spectacularly, but it shows the scale of thinking these rulers possessed. The Sultanate period saw the arrival of Sufi mystics who presented a more tolerant, mystical face of Islam that resonated with Indian spiritual traditions. Saints like Nizamuddin Auliya in Delhi and Ajmer Sharif became centers of pilgrimage for people of all faiths. Architectural fusion began during this period. Indo-Islamic architecture combined Islamic geometric patterns with Indian artistic traditions, creating marvels like the Qutub Minar and the Alai Darwaza.
In 1526, a descendant of both Genghis Khan and Tamerlane crossed the Khyber Pass and changed Indian history forever. Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, defeated Ibrahim Lodi at the Battle of Panipat, establishing what would become one of history's wealthiest and most culturally rich empires. But it was Babur's grandson, Akbar, who truly understood India. Crowned at 13, Akbar faced rebellions, enemies, and the challenge of ruling a vast, diverse empire. His solution? A revolutionary concept called Sulh-e-Kul, universal tolerance. Akbar married Hindu princesses, abolished the jizya tax on non-Muslims, and created a new syncretic religion called Din-e-Ilahi, that combined elements from various faiths. His court, the Ibadat Khana, hosted debates between Hindu pundits, Muslim clerics, Zoroastrian priests, Jain monks, and even Jesuit missionaries. The Mughal court became a magnet for talent from across the world. Persian poets, Indian musicians, European artists, and scholars from Central Asia all found patronage. The result was an unprecedented cultural synthesis. Shah Jahan, Akbar's grandson, channeled the empire's wealth into architectural marvels. The Taj Mahal, built as a tomb for his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal, took 22 years to complete and employed over 20,000 artisans. It perfectly embodies the Mughal aesthetic: Persian elegance, Islamic geometry, and Indian craftsmanship unified in white marble poetry. But it was Babur's grandson, Akbar, who truly understood India. Crowned at 13, Akbar faced rebellions, enemies, and the challenge of ruling a vast, diverse empire. His solution? A revolutionary concept called Sulh-e-Kul, universal tolerance. Akbar married Hindu princesses, abolished the jizya tax on non-Muslims, and created a new syncretic religion called Din-e-Ilahi that combined elements from various faiths. His court, the Ibadat Khana, hosted debates between Hindu pundits, Muslim clerics, Zoroastrian priests, Jain monks, and even Jesuit missionaries. The Mughal court became a magnet for talent from across the world. Persian poets, Indian musicians, European artists, and scholars from Central Asia all found patronage. The result was an unprecedented cultural synthesis. Shah Jahan, Akbar's grandson, channeled the empire's wealth into architectural marvels. The Taj Mahal, built as a tomb for his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal, took 22 years to complete and employed over 20,000 artisans. It perfectly embodies the Mughal aesthetic: Persian elegance, Islamic geometry, and Indian craftsmanship unified in white marble poetry. The decline of Mughal power created opportunities for new players, and none were more opportunistic than the British East India Company. What started as a small trading enterprise in 1600 gradually became the ruler of India through a combination of military superiority, political manipulation, and economic exploitation. The turning point came in 1757 at the Battle of Plassey. Robert Clive's victory over Siraj-ud-Dawla wasn't just a military triumph, it was a masterpiece of bribery and betrayal. Mir Jafar's treachery gave the company control over Bengal, the richest province in India. The company's rule was extraction on an industrial scale. Bengal, which had been one of the world's wealthiest regions, was systematically drained. The Great Famine of 1770 killed over 10 million people, 1/3 of Bengal's population, while the company continued to collect taxes from the survivors. Traditional Indian industries were destroyed by design. Indian textiles, once sought after globally, couldn't compete with machine-made British cloth. The handloom weavers of Bengal, whose fine muslins were called woven air, found their thumbs cut off to prevent competition from Manchester mills. But India didn't submit quietly. The company faced constant resistance, from Tipu Sultan's rockets in Mysore to the guerrilla warfare of Maratha leaders like Tatya Tope. The Sannyasi Rebellion, the Polygar Wars, and dozens of other uprisings showed that Indians never accepted foreign rule as legitimate. This resistance culminated in 1857 with what the British called the Indian Mutiny, but which Indians remember as the First War of Independence. The immediate trigger was cartridges greased with cow and pig fat, offensive to both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. But the deeper cause was a century of accumulated grievances. From Meerut to Delhi, from Lucknow to Jhansi, Indians rose in rebellion. Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi became a symbol of resistance, fighting the British with her infant sons strapped to her back. Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, was proclaimed leader of the rebellion, despite his advanced age. The rebellion failed, but it changed everything. The company's rule ended, and India came under direct British Crown rule. The British Crown's rule brought railways, telegraphs, and English education to India, but it also brought systematic racism, economic exploitation, and cultural suppression. The British saw themselves as bringing civilization to India, conveniently forgetting that India had been civilized for millennia before Britain existed. This period saw the emergence of Indian nationalism. The Indian National Congress, founded in 1885, initially sought reforms within the British system. But as British intransigence became clear, the demand shifted from reform to independence. Then came Mohandas Gandhi, a London-trained lawyer who had cut his teeth fighting discrimination in South Africa. Gandhi's genius was adapting ancient Indian concepts like ahimsa, nonviolence, and satyagraha, truth force, into modern political weapons. The Salt March of 1930 exemplified Gandhi's approach. By walking 240 miles to the sea and making salt, Gandhi challenged the British monopoly in the most non-violent way possible. The image of this frail man defying an empire through moral force captured the world's imagination. But Gandhi wasn't the only independence leader. Bal Gangadhar Tilak declared, "Swaraj is my birthright." Subhas Chandra Bose organized the Indian National Army to fight the British militarily. Bhagat Singh, sacrificed at age 23, inspired countless young Indians. Women like Sarojini Naidu and Kasturba Gandhi played crucial roles in the freedom struggle. The independence movement wasn't just political, it was cultural and economic too. The Swadeshi movement promoted Indian goods over British imports. Rabindranath Tagore, the first non-European Nobel Prize winner in literature, used his writings to inspire national consciousness while criticizing narrow nationalism. World War II accelerated the independence process. The Quit India movement of 1942 saw massive civil disobedience. The Indian National Army's alliance with Japan, though ultimately unsuccessful, showed that Indians were willing to fight for freedom. But independence came with a tragic price: partition. The dream of a united India was shattered by communal tensions exploited by colonial divide-and-rule policies. On August 14th and 15th, 1947, British India was divided into India and Pakistan, leading to one of history's largest population exchanges and communal violence that killed over 1 million people.
At midnight on August 15, 1947, Jawaharlal Nehru delivered one of history's great speeches. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A nation that had been colonized for 2 centuries was now free, but freedom brought enormous challenges. India in 1947 was a paradox, an ancient civilization trying to become a modern nation. With over 550 princely states to integrate, multiple languages, diverse religions, and crushing poverty, many predicted India wouldn't survive as a united democracy. They were wrong. Under Nehru's leadership and with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's iron will, India not only survived but began to thrive. The integration of princely states was completed remarkably peacefully, though the Kashmir issue would remain a thorn. The Constitution of India, adopted in 1950, was a masterpiece of democratic idealism. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chief architect, created a document that balanced unity with diversity, giving special protections to marginalized communities while establishing a strong federal structure. Nehru's vision was of a modern, scientific, secular India. The 5-year plans focused on heavy industry and infrastructure. The Indian Institutes of Technology, IITs, were established to create a scientific temper. The non-aligned movement positioned India as a leader of newly independent nations. But nation-building wasn't easy. The wars with China 1962 and Pakistan 1965 and 1971 tested India's resolve. The Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, under Indira Gandhi's leadership, showed India's growing confidence and strategic capability. Indira Gandhi dominated Indian politics from 1966 to 1984, with a brief interruption. Her decision to impose emergency in 1975 to 77 was controversial, but it proved Indian democracy's resilience when she was voted out of power in 1977 and then voted back in 1980. The Green Revolution transformed India from a food deficit nation to food secure. Scientists like M.S. Swaminathan and Norman Borlaug introduced high-yielding varieties that dramatically increased agricultural productivity. In 1991, India faced its worst economic crisis since independence. Foreign currency reserves had dwindled to barely 2 weeks of imports. The government had to airlift gold reserves to London as collateral for emergency loans. But crisis became opportunity. Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh launched economic liberalization that would transform India forever. The License Raj, the complex system of licenses and permits that stifled business, was dismantled. Foreign investment was welcomed. Trade barriers were reduced. The results were dramatic. Indian companies, no longer protected from competition, either became globally competitive or perished. Infosys, Wipro, and TCS became global technology leaders. Indian pharmaceutical companies became the pharmacy of the developing world. The services sector, particularly IT and business process outsourcing, made Bangalore synonymous with innovation. The liberalization period saw the rise of coalition politics. Regional parties gained prominence, reflecting India's diversity. Leaders like Atal Bihari Vajpayee showed that coalition governments could provide stable leadership. The nuclear tests of 1998 under Vajpayee declared India a nuclear power, while his bus journey to Lahore showed commitment to peace with Pakistan. The Kargil conflict later that year tested both India's military capability and democratic resolve. Dr. Manmohan Singh, who became Prime Minister in 2004, oversaw a period of high economic growth. The UPA government launched ambitious welfare schemes like MGNREGA, which guaranteed 100 days of employment to rural households, and the Right to Information Act, which empowered citizens to question government actions. India's soft power also grew during this period. Bollywood films found global audiences. Indian cuisine, yoga, and spirituality became popular worldwide. The diaspora, particularly in Silicon Valley, became a powerful lobby for India-US relations.
In 2014, Indian politics witnessed a watershed moment. Narendra Modi, the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, led the Bharatiya Janata Party to a decisive victory, ending a decade of coalition rule. Modi's campaign promised Achhe Din, good days, and development-oriented governance. The Modi era has been marked by ambitious initiatives that leverage technology for governance and development. The Digital India campaign aims to transform India into a digitally empowered society. The Jan Dhan Financial Inclusion Program opened over 400 million bank accounts for previously unbanked citizens. Aadhaar, the world's largest biometric identification system, has revolutionized service delivery. UPI, Unified Payments Interface, has made India a global leader in digital payments. During the COVID-19 pandemic, India's digital infrastructure enabled direct benefit transfers to millions of families. The Goods and Services Tax, GST, implemented in 2017, created a unified national market for the first time since independence. Though implementation faced initial challenges, it simplified India's complex indirect tax structure. Modi's foreign policy has raised India's global profile. The Make in India initiative seeks to transform India into a manufacturing hub. The International Day of Yoga, recognized by the UN, showcases India's soft power. India's leadership during the G20 presidency in 2023 demonstrated its growing global influence. Space achievements under Modi have been remarkable. The Mars orbiter mission made India the first country to succeed in reaching Mars on its first attempt. Chandrayaan-3's successful moon landing in 2023 made India only the fourth country to achieve a soft lunar landing and the first to land near the moon's south pole. The Ayodhya Ram temple construction, completed in 2024, fulfilled a long-standing Hindu aspiration while maintaining India's secular fabric through peaceful resolution of a decades-old dispute. As we conclude this incredible journey through 5,000 years of Indian history, let's reflect on what makes this story so remarkable. From the planned cities of Harappa to the digital payments of today, from the non-violence of Buddha to the space missions of ISRO, India's history is a testament to human resilience, creativity, and adaptability. Today's India is home to 1.4 billion people, nearly 1/6 of humanity. It's the world's largest democracy, where 900 million people participate in elections. It's a nuclear power and a space power, yet also home to ancient traditions that continue to inspire millions. Modern India faces challenges that would be familiar to its historical rulers: how to balance unity with diversity, how to ensure prosperity reaches everyone, how to maintain cultural identity while embracing modernity. But if history teaches us anything, it's that India has always found ways to synthesize seemingly contradictory elements into something uniquely its own. The India that gave the world the concept of zero is now home to some of the world's largest tech companies. The land that produced Gandhi's non-violence also produces Bollywood's dreams that entertain 1 billion people. The civilization that created classical music and dance continues to evolve, with young Indians creating new forms of art and expression. As we look toward the future, India stands at another historical inflection point. With its young population, a growing economy, and technological capabilities, India is positioned to be one of the 21st century's defining powers. The question isn't whether India will be important in the future. The question is how it will use its growing influence. The story of India teaches us that civilizations aren't just about empires and conquests, though India has had plenty of both. They're about ideas, values, and the human spirit's endless capacity for renewal. From the Vedic sages who pondered the nature of reality to the modern scientists launching missions to Mars, Indians have always been seekers of truth, of justice, of a better world. And that quest continues. Every morning as the sun rises over the Himalayas, over the Ganges Plains, over the Deccan Plateau, and over the coastal regions, it illuminates a civilization that has survived invasions, colonization, partition, and countless challenges. It illuminates a democracy where 1 billion people continue to believe that, despite all problems, tomorrow can be better than today. That's the real miracle of India, not just that it survived 5,000 years of history, but that it emerged from that history with its capacity for hope, for diversity, for tolerance, and for reinvention intact. The story of India isn't finished. In fact, the most exciting chapters might still be unwritten. What an incredible journey we've taken together. From ancient Harappa to modern India, we've witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of religions, the struggle for freedom, and the challenges of nation-building. If this journey through Indian history fascinated you as much as it did me, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into world history. What period of Indian history interests you most? Let me know in the comments. Maybe it'll be the subject of our next video. And remember, understanding history isn't just about knowing the past, it's about understanding the present and preparing for the future. India's story continues to unfold, and we're all part of that continuing narrative. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, And keep questioning. History is all around us. We just need to know how to look for it.